What if I told you that the universe we are currently living in is not the only one? What if I told you that there are alternate realities out there in which every time you make a decision, a new reality is created? So that begs the question, what if? What if I didn't have a turkey sandwich yesterday? What if I didn't eat that chocolate cake for dessert? But today, that won't be what we're looking at. Today, we're exploring what if Eli Manning never refused to play for the Chargers in 2004.
Where does that leave the Giants? Where does that leave the Chargers? The Steelers? Big Ben, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, maybe even Chris Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, Tom Brady, Drew Brees. You would be surprised how many careers are changed because of this one decision. So let's get into it. The alternate timeline begins in 2004. Eli Manning never refused to play for the Chargers. Therefore, the Chargers still select him at number 1, and he plays his career there. Where does that leave the Giants? Well, they're still picking at pick 4, and they never select Phillip Rivers, as they had Big Ben higher on their board in real life. As the Giants GM at the time, Ernie Accorsi, is on the record as saying they only drafted Phillip Rivers to trade him for Eli Manning, which is pretty crazy. So Eli Manning is a Charger, Big Ben is a Giant, and that means Phillip Rivers goes to the Steelers at pick 11. Also, a side note, the Giants keep their 3rd round pick in 2004, and they keep their 1st rounder and their 5th round pick in 2005, as they traded that for Eli Manning. So let's begin the 2004-2005 NFL season. We'll start with the Giants, and just like in real life, they start 5-2 with Kurt Warner at quarterback. Warner then goes on to lose 2 games, and the Giants are now sitting at 5-4, and they feel pressured, so they put in their rookie quarterback. But this time it's Big Ben and not Eli Manning. Big Ben's first start comes in Week 11 against the Atlanta Falcons, where the Giants lose this game. The Giants finished the season 7-9 compared to a real-life 6-10 record. The Giants' extra win came in Week 15, where Big Ben and the Giants faced Phillip Rivers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Giants win this game as Big Ben had a much stronger rookie year than Phillip Rivers. As a result, the Giants come out on top. So speaking of the Steelers, not much really changes for them, as they still sit Rivers the first week, but due to an injury to Tommy Maddox in Week 2, Rivers has to go in. He starts the rest of the season and leads the Steelers to a 14-2 record. This is one less win than the Steelers have in real life. And for the Chargers, literally nothing changes for them, because they still have Drew Brees, and Eli sits the entire rookie year, and the Chargers still go 12-4 with Drew Brees. The playoffs all stay the same, and the Steelers are the 1 seed. However, the Patriots defense is too much for Phillip Rivers to handle, and the Patriots go to the Super Bowl, where they knock off the Philadelphia Eagles. This takes us to the 2005 draft, where the Giants now have their 1st round pick, so they select Sean Merriman instead of him going to the Chargers. This fills their need at linebacker. The draft remains the same for the rest of the league. Enter the 2005-2006 season, where the San Diego Chargers start the season off 0-2, and as they feel confident in Eli Manning, they start him in Week 3 and trade Drew Brees, who still ends up going to the Saints. In return, the Chargers get a 1st round pick. The pick ends up being the 16th pick in the draft, but we'll discuss that all later. But as far as the season goes, in real life, the Chargers went 9-7 under Brees, but with Manning and LaDainian Tomlinson leading a solid team, the Chargers finished the season with a 12-4 record as Manning is playing his first real season. The Chargers originally lost to the Broncos in Week 17, the Steelers in Week 5, and the Chiefs in Week 16, but they now win all 3 of those matchups, and that takes them to the 1st round bye. They're now the 2 seed. So the new AFC playoffs picture in 2005 has the Colts as the 1 seed, the Bolts as the 2 seed, the Bengals as the 3 seed, the Patriots as the 4 seed, Denver as the 5 seed, and the Jags as the 6 seed. In the divisional round, the Chargers play the Pats, and young Manning defeats Tom Brady for the first time of many in his career. This will ignite the Eli-Brady rivalry for years to come. From there, in the conference championship, there's a Manning Bowl, and Eli takes on Peyton, and Peyton prevails as he leads a much better and overall experienced team to the Super Bowl. In the Super Bowl, now instead of the Steelers playing the Seahawks, we have the Indianapolis Colts playing the Seattle Seahawks. The Colts are victorious in the Super Bowl as they have the more well-rounded and overall better team than Seattle. But we have to discuss the NFC side of the playoffs. This is where we take a look at Seattle's journey to the Super Bowl against the Colts. So for the Giants, they won 2 more games in real life, and they beat the Cowboys and the Seahawks with Sean Merriman and Big Ben. Both of these games went to overtime in real life, and with the additions of Big Ben and Sean Merriman, the Giants would likely be able to win these games like they do in this scenario. So that leaves the Giants getting the 1 seed, and now Seattle is the 2 seed. So that's the NFC playoff picture, and the wild card weekend, the Carolina Panthers now beat Tampa, and Washington loses to Chicago in the playoffs, as Chicago is a much tougher place to play in Tampa, and the Redskins beat the Bucs in real life. So now for the divisional round, the Panthers play the Giants, but the Giants are still too young to really go anywhere, and they fall to Carolina. Seattle beats Chicago in the divisional round, and goes on to beat Carolina in the conference championship, just like in real life. Seattle loses to the Colts in Detroit for the Super Bowl, as mentioned previously. Now, you may be asking yourselves, where are the Steelers? But as they have Phillip Rivers instead of Big Ben now, they lose 1 more game, and instead of going 11-5 and being the 6th seed, they're now 10-6 and miss the playoffs altogether. So they never become the first 6 seed to ever win the Super Bowl, and Jerome Bettis doesn't get his fairy tale ending. So now for the 2006 draft, nothing really notable or worth mentioning happens here. You know, the order changes, a lot of the players either stay the same or just never amount to being anything. So that brings us to the 2006-2007 NFL season, and the Steelers go 8-8, and nothing really changes for them. Rivers isn't exactly improving, and the Steelers still hire Mike Tomlin. As for the Chargers, they improved to a whopping 15-1, and that's an improvement from their real-life 14-2, with Eli instead of Phillip Rivers now. As for the New York Giants, they win 2 more games than in real life. They beat the Colts and the Cowboys, and they go 10-6. This makes the Giants the 5 seed, and the Cowboys are now the 6 seed. The Giants lost the division tiebreaker to the Eagles, as they lost them twice in the regular season. And in wildcard weekend, Dallas loses to the Eagles, and the Giants lose to Seattle in Tiki Barber's final game in the NFL. The rest of the playoff stays the same. As for the Chargers, on the AFC side of the things, Manning shows real strides as a player, but the Chargers are still run for his team as LaDainian Tomlinson once again wins MVP, just like he did in real life, and breaks the touchdown record. Manning throws for 4,000 yards, and the Chargers finish with the number 1 offense with firepower consisting of Gates, Vincent Jackson, Darren Sproles, and of course Eli Manning and LaDainian Tomlinson. So now for the updated AFC playoff picture, that has the Chargers as the 1 seed, the Ravens as the 2 seed, the Patriots as the 3 seed, the Colts as the 4 seed, Jets as the 5 seed, and the Chiefs as the 6 seed. The Chargers once again defeat Peyton Manning and the Colts, as the Colts fell from the 3 seed to the 4 seed, and they have to play the Chargers in the divisional round where they'll lose. As for the conference championship, Manning and Tomlinson are able to once again defeat Tom Brady and the Patriots, as Vincent Jackson shines, scoring 2 touchdowns, and the Chargers win a close one in overtime. The Chargers win their first ever Super Bowl, and they defeat the Bears 27-14. LaDainian Tomlinson wins Super Bowl MVP, running for 120 yards, a touchdown, and also hauling in 5 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown. And, of course, Eli Manning plays well. That takes us to the 2007 NFL Draft. Nothing really important happens here. The Chargers now get Paul Posluszny and still land Eric Weddle in the 2nd round. This gives them a solid linebacker for a little bit to sort of fill the void left by Sean Merriman, who they no longer get in this alternate universe. So, the 2007-2008 season, we'll start off with the San Diego Chargers, who never fire Marty Schottenheimer, as he won them the Super Bowl the previous season. They open up the season with a win over the Bears, and eventually finish 11-5, just like they did in real life. The AFC playoff picture stays the same, and the Chargers are surprisingly upset by the Titans in the first round of the playoffs. In the draft, the Chargers move up a few picks, and they select Pro Bowl cornerback Mike Jenkins. We'll talk about the draft a little bit more later on, but for the Steelers, they make the playoffs under Mike Tomlin and go the same as they did in real life with a 10-6 record. The Steelers are no longer upset by the Jaguars, who are the 5 seed in this, and they advance to the divisional round after a huge game. Phillip Rivers is able to beat the Jags. Big Ben can never really beat the Jags. He just always had a thing against the Jaguars in real life where he can never really beat them. So I feel like it's fitting to have the Steelers win this game. However, they do lose to the Colts in the divisional round as Peyton puts on a clinic against them. The Colts then lose to the undefeated Patriots in the AFC Conference Championship. So where does that leave the Giants? Well, the Giants once again go 10-6, and they are the 5 seed. They still reach the Super Bowl and go on that miracle run, upsetting the Cowboys and the Packers on their way. This Giants defense is one of the greatest the team has seen since Lawrence Taylor and crew. Sean Merriman really proves to be a big help, as he's not a Charger and he's playing his career in New York in this scenario. However, without Eli's magic and clutch ability, the Evil Empire makes history by being the first team to go 19-0 and they win the Super Bowl. Giants fans are devastated. Patriots fans rejoice. That brings us to the 2008 draft, and now the Titans are picking before the Steelers. And just like in real life, Rashard Mendenhall is selected before Chris Johnson, and the Titans land Rashard Mendenhall, whereas the Steelers select future All-Pro Chris Johnson. He becomes one of the best running backs in the league for the next few years, playing alongside Phillip Rivers in an explosive offense with a still very, very good defense. Here we go with the 2008-2009 season. The Chargers improved 2 games from 8-8 to 10-6, but they remain as the 4 seed. They never become the first 8-8 division winner. Extra wins came against the Broncos and the Saints. As for Phillip Rivers and CJ2K, they become a dynamic duo and claim the number 1 seed at a 14-2 record in the AFC, whereas the Titans go from the 1 seed in real life to the 6 seed in this scenario after finishing 10-6. The Colts finished 13-3 and they are the 2 seed. So the updated playoff standings in the AFC are now the Steelers at number 1, the Colts at number 2, the Miami Dolphins at number 3, the San Diego Chargers at number 4, the Ravens at 5, and the Titans at 6. The Steelers defeat the Ravens in a nail-biter after the Ravens upset the Bolts in the first round. The Steelers then go all the way to the Super Bowl where they beat the New York Giants, and Rivers wins his first Super Bowl, and he brings home the Super Bowl MVP. But you're probably asking yourself, what happens to the Arizona Cardinals? How did the Giants make it to the Super Bowl instead of them? Well, the Giants remain 12-4, and they're still the 1 seed. They beat the Eagles in the divisional round, and now with them playing the Cardinals in the conference championship, Big Ben and the New York Giants are able to overcome the Cardinals, just like Big Ben did in the Super Bowl, and the Giants return to the Super Bowl for a second straight year, only to lose to the electric offense and the really, really strong defense of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Steelers are your Super Bowl 43 champions. The 2009 draft really just stays the same. The order changes a little bit, but the players typically go to the same spots. And, even if they don't, it's nothing significant enough to mention. So, for the 2009-2010 season, just like in real life, the Giants start the season 5-0, and they miss the playoffs after finishing 8-8 in their final season in Giants Stadium. The Chargers remain 13-3, and the Steelers improve from their real-life 9-7 to a 12-4 now, with the addition of Chris Johnson. They have extra wins over the Ravens, Chiefs, and Raiders. They go from missing the playoffs to the 3 seed in the AFC. The Bengals drop from winning the division to the 6 seed, and the Patriots move back up to the 4 seed. In the playoffs, Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning face each other in the postseason for the first time. Rivers and Chris Johnson are just too much for the Chargers defense to handle, and the Steelers beat the Chargers. Just a little side note, this is after the Steelers beat the Jets in the wild card round. That takes us to the AFC Championship, where the Steelers meet Peyton Manning and the Colts. In real life, the Colts go all the way to the Super Bowl. However, in this scenario, with Chris Johnson and Phillip Rivers on the Steelers, it's just too much for Peyton and the Colts to handle, and the Steelers advance to the Super Bowl, where they face off against Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. Phillip Rivers plays Drew Brees in the Super Bowl, but with the help of Chris Johnson, it's just too much for the city of New Orleans to overcome, and they never get their big Katrina moment, and the Steelers become back-to-back Super Bowl champs, and Chris Johnson takes home the Super Bowl MVP. So that does it for part 1. You guys are starting to see some of the changes really unfold with Chris Johnson going to the Steelers and Drew Brees and the Saints never winning the Super Bowl. So if you like what you see and you want to see part 2, leave a like. If we get to 50, we'll release part 2. It only gets crazier from part 2. Like, you definitely drop a like if you want to see that. And yeah, that about does it. Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you have some video suggestions, what you'd like to see in the future, definitely let us know. Subscribe, share, you know the deal. That does it. See you next time.